Call to order the Town Mount Desert Planning Board meeting for May 28th, 2025, and welcome aboard. So we'll kick off with some introductions here. William Hanley, the Planning Board Chair. We have our Vice Chair, Tracy Loftus Keller. We have Board Member Ian Dalton, alternate member Dean Berg, regular. So we are all here. And with that, let's dive right into it. So we've got minutes to approve. That was the last hearing on the 14th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right, item 3. So item 3 tonight is section 2 general provisions. Bear with me while I read through this, but we have similar uses. So what that talks about is that unspecified uses which are substantially the same as or having effects the same as the uses listed in section 3.4, which everybody should be referring to in their land use, shall be treated the same as those listed uses. Similarities shall be determined by the planning board in strict compliance with the standards set forth in section 6 with other pertinent provisions of this ordinance. Any use or activity not listed in section 3.4 shall be excluded unless the planning board, in accordance with section 3.4, determines that it is similar to a specified use. And tonight we have property owner Zephyr Holding LLC. The applicant is Dr. Norman Manning. Location is 16 Main Street, Seal Harbor, tax map 3, lot 6. The zoning is village commercial. Tonight we have a determination of use. And was this one advertised in?
Papers in front of you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Right there, and that's the.
That is May 15th. North American, Big Twist Villager, Mount Desert Islander.
We don't have to notify abutters.
It's an informal.
There's no conflict of interest on the board with this.
Done here.
All right, well, I'm gonna kick it over to the applicant then.
Hey, yeah, thank you. I'm Lauren Manning, and I have just a little overview to offer everyone along with a letter from Alex Livings of support. He's the owner of the building. And so I'm a child with adolescent psychiatrist and hoping to use the space for my private practice, which primarily serves children, adolescents, and families with therapy-based and medication management. And kind of outlined a little bit here and happy to take any questions about the proposed or
The picture of which building.
Oh, sure. Yeah, so this is, it was formerly the Nationalist Notebook.
Yep.
And I would be, because of the first floor, Alex Stevens had previously gone through the permitting process to add a half bath that I think was happening regardless of my use. The only change I would be making would hopefully be to add a door in an existing pass-through to create privacy between the office and the waiting room space. And so I would primarily be providing like one-on-one care for children or families. But with planning board approval, I'd also love to offer quarterly groups or workshops for the community as just a way to offer like a low cost or free option for folks who are interested in learning different parenting skills, mindfulness, things like that. But my hours would be their typical kind of business hours, Monday through Thursday, with probably a limit of about 20 clinical hours per week, with a good portion of those happening via telehealth. So I think the impact on traffic or parking would be less than the natural snowplow. And just the nature of psychiatry, the need is for this in the winter. So I think it actually kind of aligns pretty well with the sort of seasonal patterns where I would expect to be a little bit less busy in the summer. There's more traffic.
Okay, so I live off the street, I guess, for this delivery. And I do think this would be a good addition to the little village. Is there parking behind that building?
There is, and so I think Alice right now is figuring out exactly how many spaces it can accommodate, but it would be enough for myself and the upstairs tenant.
Yeah.
And my visits are typically about an hour long, so and always scheduled, so there wouldn't be a lot of like people coming and going.
Yeah. There's, in the summer, that area, it's a lot of beach parking, so I don't think it's much.
Professional services. Departments.
I saw one in a chart that's an office building. I'm thinking that this. And that,
I think also we could argue services one. It doesn't simply talk about professional services, but then personal services, wholly enclosed. And they cite hairdressing, barber, tailor, dressmaker, sewing, tanning, et cetera. I'd argue that this. Well, first of all, I will note that we're trying in the land use advisory committee to redo this, and this is one of the reasons why I'm showing it here, because it's not complete. But I would think that it's similar in terms of its impact on the community to services one, and could therefore be.
What are the other tenants in the building? Or other
It's
tenants?
an apartment above. So office building is defined as a building used primarily for conducting the affairs of a business, profession, service, or industry. We don't have a definition of services one. This building would fit more so than services one.
It doesn't.
Sure.
Affect it, that times stairs.
Back in what way?
In aligning the use with office building.
No, I mean, you can have multi uses. If this changes, because right now it's under retail. The bookstore, that's the thing. Huh?
Yeah, right.
A change of use would require state fire marshal approval, and possibly fire rating. But I don't know what the retail and the office, I mean, and the apartment now, there's fire ratings in between. There's always been either retail or apartment about. That would be something me and Lauren can talk about, and Mr. Stevens. But maybe office building is the jurisdiction of code enforcement, so it'd be permitted in me. I think Mr. Stevens is in the process of maybe getting a survey of his property. I hadn't heard back from him, so I did email him before I came.
Oh, okay.
To see about parking, because you have to have off-street parking.
Yep.
When you do a change of use, so. I'll need to know that, but right tonight is the planning board is just trying to determine the use to classify, because we don't have any like. Clinical or
Sure.
anything like that in our ordinance. Reading the definition of office building, that's. Anything that they could classify you,
Of course.
but it's clearly after that.
Yeah. And the update I had from Alex was that he's working with the surveyor and it's gonna take a little more time.
Okay.
Get that form done.
Yeah. And you were looking to start this in the late summer, fall?
Yeah, in August.
Okay.
Hope for
Okay.
sort of continuity for patients, yeah.
How are the other buildings classified there? Probably.
Oh, there's restaurant use, there's proposed office, there's retail,
Church.
there's a church, well, I don't know if it's still a church, and it was more like a multi-use building, but. It's an apartment, that's been converted where that, coffee shop used to be. And then on the other side, there's the bicycle. Kitty outdoors. Which is retail.
So do you want a motion for this?
Yeah, you have to, kind of classify a use for her so she knows where to go.
An office.
So either way, they could fix both of them just fine. An office building is fine.
So ready for motion? Where the planning board determines that the use of 16 Main Street Seal Harbor can be classified like an office building for the purposes of the Luso, and therefore it was in one section 2, similar uses. And then in that it is, in that a long, I mean, sorry, and that a profession, and that a psychiatric services are substantially the same as, or having effects of the same as of the uses in an office building in section 3.4. Therefore, it will be treated the same as office building. Second close.
Second then?
Well, let's hear what Heidi.
You know, I can try to clean it up.
Yeah, maybe we'll-
Move the, I just missed one little
Well,
thing at the end.
want to try it again, please?
But I read it,
Okay.
and then we'll go from there. Move that the planning board determines that the use of 16 Main Street Seal Harbor can be classified like an office building for the purposes of the LUZO, and therefore it complies with section, this is where I lost it.
Yeah.
Complies with section 2, similar uses. Okay. And then you had more in that
Yes.
psychiatric services, but I'm,
And then I'm basically just reading from section 2 then. Psychiatric services are substantially the same as, or have the effect, or effects the same as an office building as defined in section, in the ordinance in section 3, under 3.4.
okay, so are substantially the same or has,
Or having effects the same as the uses listed in section 3.4. Listed for office building.
Also reference the definition.
Yes. As defined. Section, I usually somebody say section 8, in section 8 of the user.
the planning board determines the use of 16 Main Street Seal Harbor. Determines the use of 16 Main Street Seal Harbor can be classified like an office building for the purposes of the LUZO, and therefore it complies with section 2, similar uses, in that psychiatric services are,
Substantially the same as.
substantially the same, I
Yep.
abbreviated, substantially the same or having effects the same as uses listed in section 3.4, specifically 3.4 as defined in the section 8 of the LUZO.
Yeah, 3.4 office. Okay, yeah.
As defined in section 8 of the Luso was the last line of that.
Well, the definition is of office. I don't want to get page number because I can change them here. Section. I mean, office.
Dash 13. You want definition?
Yeah, well, I didn't want to necessarily put the page number in because it could change.
Oh, I thought you were asking for page.
No. But I hesitate to do that because it might be different next year. Section. Semi good.
Sure.
Good with that.
And Alan, it's seconded.
Favor?
Uh,
Aye. No. That's. Welcome to town. All right. Item 4 on the agenda tonight, we have two conditional use approval applications. And the first one is conditional use approval application 004-2025. Owner name is Leslie Edwards. This is at 128 Hall Quarry Road, Mount Desert, tax map 19, lot 12-004. The zone is residential 1. And the purpose is section 3.4, animal husbandry 2, the care and keeping of poultry, 6 chickens. We had a site visit at 5:15 and were abutters notified and this one
Yes.
published.
This was, in the newspaper, in the Ellsworth American, Mid-Coast Villager, Mount Desert Islander on Thursday, May 15th. And, a notification went out to the abutters on May 9th, and there were 4 abutters notified.
Fantastic. And I'll ask if there's any conflict of interest on the board. Chickens. Unheard. And so let's have somebody report on our observations from the site visit today. Anne, would you care to?
So we had a site visit with Leslie at the property. She showed us the already constructed chicken coop, well constructed, explained to us her priorities for keeping chickens. She has lots of experience keeping chickens, years of experience. The chicken coop itself is mobile. We, to allow the chickens to have change of grass. If they use one site, they can move to the unused site. According to the map she gave us, she's 65 feet from the Hall Quarry Road and 25 feet from her back line. Anything else present to say? But
Other observations from anybody at the chicken site visit?
Go over it, nice and tidy. Happy little chickens.
Any spot there?
Everything will be enclosed, the waste will be removed weekly.
Mhm.
Chickens will be happy, happy chickens.
Anything the applicant would care to add to our observations?
Don't think so. Exactly.
Open it up then for public comment if anybody cares to comment on the chickens. Don't have anybody online tonight, so it's just us. All right, I'm gonna close public comment. The first order here is to find the application complete.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oops. And oh, what would the second one?
Do you want, we're doing this short form after our discussion list?
Well, looking at the forms before me,
Yeah, this is.
You wanted to just do that one? I move we use the short form.
there you go.
Second up.
All those in favor of using the short form?
I,
Aye. Opposed? Okay, then we go and do the approval. It's the.
I move approval of the application.
second.
Right, then we press the pause. button. We reviewed the application. Let's, all right, so
Nice.
I've got the short one. I did not crack a beer. And so I've got the short form before me. I've got the application. I've got my lose over here too, and let's all follow along as we drill down through this. So, all right. So, using the short form, standard 6, section 6, standards for uses, permits, and approvals. We're in section 6A, general performance standards. And the first one is compatibility. And that's where we talk about the physical size of the coop. It's 4 feet wide, 8 feet long, 4.5 feet tall. The coop drum is 4 feet wide, 10 feet long, 4 feet high. There's 6 chickens in there. And visual impact, we have attached photos, proximity to other structures. It's about 30 feet from the house, and density of development, there's the house there. So the application. 6A2, erosion and sedimentation control. It is a mobile chicken coop, so the applicant said NA. Highway safety. Chickens are contained in the applicant said NA. Impact on town services, 6.4 NA. 6A5, land suitability. This is one of those Knoll things. Yeah, the 6.5. It says NA. Lighting outdoor. 6A6. Also in that.
You want one?
Yeah,
Where's your application?
again,
But you don't have 6A6?
I don't have. Goes from 6A4, 6A8, then it goes into 6B.
Nice. Okay, well, I have a phone.
Yeah, I mean, we've
Oh,
got
you get on, okay.
the cherry.
6-7.
Right,
Say
so
7.
6A6, lighting outdoor, the applicant says NA, there is no lighting. 6A7, stormwater.
But the article telling that her restrictions are really light when it's during the day.
During the day,
It's a-
Yeah, at 5 AM there'll be a light bulb that goes on inside the coop.
Yeah.
To wake them
so I
up.
guess that's not considered.
That's clear outside.
Yeah, okay. All right, fine, thank you.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
So it was 6A6, lighting outdoor, NA. 6A7 is NA, that's a mobile coop. 6A8 is NA, it's on lawn. 6A9, dust fumes, vapors, odors, and gases. NA, but the applicant explained we're taking the chicken.
All compost will be taken up to Camp and Danforth, Maine, and will be composted up there.
So section 6A, the findings of fact are present.
6A9, C application or not applicable?
It's an A,
It's okay.
the one that the compost under 60.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just wanted to-
Separate one. Findings of fact are presented by the applicant in attached application, and the conclusion was that the proposed use is in compliance with all standards of section 6A, from which the standard has been met.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Uh-huh.
Right, and then we get into section 6B, specific performance standards for activities in land uses. 6B1. Agriculture. The applicant says applicable standard met.
That was for the manure.
Yeah.
Spreading, and what that talks about is all spreading and disposal of manure shall be accomplished in conformance with main guidelines for manure and manure sludge disposal on land.
Is that applicable to this zone? It seems like a specific type of
You know, it's
house for.
Or like a commercial.
That's a PFAS, I think.
house.
Yeah.
For goats.
It's.
I'm gonna say C application.
Yes.
Excavating or filling 6B7 is an A, 6B8 fences and walls. 6B12 mineral exploration and extraction and A. 6B15 sign regulations and A. 6B17 wireless communication facilities and A. 6B18 the animal husbandry 2. Just for the record, on the application, 6B18 is wireless communication. So
And I didn't have a 60-50. You mentioned 15.
that's a
There's 8 to 16.
animal husbandry 2 on this is 6B19.
Right.
And this is where it talks about, you know, that the provision for the storage and removal of
That's NA though, because that's only village commercial shall make, not in that zone.
6B20, there's no mobile food vendor. Chicken is kind of visible.
I mean, that's just, it's not kidding.
Thank you. 6B21 is a rooming house and A, and 6B22 is a hotel.
But then he was worried that it might even.
So the findings of fact of the proposed use includes none of the specific activities or land uses described in section 6B except for 6B1. And the conclusion was section 6B is not applicable except for section 6B1, for which the standard has been met.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Not in the shoreline zone. Section 6C is NA, we do not the shoreline zone. R1. So the findings of fact of the proposed law is entirely outside the shoreline zone, and conclusion was that section 6C is not applicable.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then because we're not in the shoreline zone, we don't do section 5.9. Are there any permit conditions? This one, None heard. Circle back to the 8-track to cross play, the approval vote. All those in favor of approving the application? Aye. Opposed?
I'll send it to you. Oh, okay. I'm gonna just.
Congrats.
Thank you. She can find it before. My dad will be happy. Aw.
I'll put it down here.
I'll send you the application, but, okay, thank you, you're welcome. Okay, you can, thank you.
Alan's delivering the sign of approval.
Oh, yeah, let me have, no, I have the original.
All good. Right.
Good.
Second conditional use approval application tonight is 2025. Owner name is Thomas M. and Martha E. Cienovitz. Location is 30 Broad Cove Road, Mount Desert, tax map 8, lot 124. Zone is rural woodland 3 and shoreline residential 3. And purposes section 3.5 of each warrant height. And what that says is that structures outside the shoreline zone shall not exceed 40 feet. In exceptional cases which meet the standards of the ordinance and will not adversely affect the skyline of the town, conditional use approval may be issued, notwithstanding the above height limitations. Placement of fill to circumvent the height requirement is prohibited. We had a site inspection at 5:30. Was this one advertised and the
Yes.
butters notified?
Yes, it was advertised in the Ellsworth American, Mid-Coast Villager, and Mount Desert Islander on May 15th. And abutters were notified by letter dated May 9th. And there were a total of 6 abutters notified.
Any conflict of interest on this one?
Nope.
Unheard. We had a site inspection at 5:30. And Alan, perhaps you'd like to convey your observations.
We went to the site and it's a very tall house. And I guess possibly with the excavating and everything, the house is slightly over height. I'm not quite sure on how we measure those these days. Unless you go up there and drop a measuring tape. I suppose you could do it somehow. But we did get notifications from most all the neighbors who have no problem with the height being slightly over. So it all seemed like a very nice residence to me.
Any other observations from the board? Site visit?
Site visit, oh, well, from the site visit and the application, it seems as though there's been an ongoing discussion about where you measure this from, the height from. That has been fairly difficult to determine. And learned at the site visit was that maximum deviation from the 40 feet, depending on how you, from where you measure that, is gonna be approximately 4.2 inches. But that's also.
Can you say that number one more time? 4.8 inches deviation.
Yeah. I mean, the site is a heavily wooded site. It's not in the shoreline zone.
Right.
It, the structure, as tall as it is, has a pretty minimal footprint.
It's not as tall as the trees around it.
And there are no neighbors are visible.
And the owner's priority is to keep the tree.
Mhm.
Just possibly, you know.
Right, well, I'll turn it over to the applicant then, and if they care to add anything to the board's observations, please do.
Thank you. Just briefly, Tom Sinevich, I'm the applicant. I've actually been working with the code enforcement officer on this issue right from the outset of the permit. Through the processes you've gleaned from my application, the definition of what downhill is actually somewhat ambiguous in the code. Although I don't take issue with the determination of the code enforcement officer, it's her job to determine where she best thinks it is. The application didn't discuss all the ways in which you could understand it. So we've also gleaned, I think, the central issue, which is it's a vertical building to maintain the existing natural features of the site of town as much as we possibly could. So that's the reason it's a tall structure. It's behind a hill, it cannot be seen in any public way. As you've also observed, it's there with the trees that some iteration.
There's no written checklist.
Yeah.
Just,
So additional use that this is a first, I can say, in my over 20 years being here. That an application before you for height. I only know of one other application that was before my 10 years code enforcement officer. It's in town.
say that too, is over 10 years on board, I've never seen this. And
Well, it's not common.
this is a first. As long as I've been.
That part of it, we need to determine which is the.
Well,
downward.
I think, yes, I think we, for the record, need to. Just let's step back and look at the big picture here. I mean, this is a potentially precedent setting, determination here for the finding, and it's only relative to outside of the shoreline zone, but, just keep that in mind. I mean, there's a lot going on in town, and a lot of big things and small things and good things. Not some good things, and this is a first for us. And just wanted to put that out there, and I think it's critical that we as a board understand the height determination. Okay, I think for the record, we need to all be in agreement of how much taller than 40 feet is this thing. And I'd first ask Kim, is there any contest between your determination and the height? Or not a contest, difference, let's say.
Well, this plan, which was done by the surveyor, Steve Sullivan, he determined the four corners of the building in compliance with the original grade, not existing grade, original grade. So the downhill side of the structure obviously is the lower side. Would you agree? Okay. So whether you use B and C, which is what I would say is the downhill side. That's 101.5 and 102.5. And if you do that, 101.5 plus the 102.5, that gives you 204 feet. Divide that by 2 because you're taking two corners.
Because the definition of height, it's calculated from the mean original.
It's the mean original grade at the downhill side of the structure. So the 102.5 0.5 and the 101.5 gives you 24 feet, divide that by 2. And then the elevation to the peak is 142.4 feet. Subtract that, 102, that gives you 40.4 feet. Now, the surveyor is saying the western side, which is B and A, is the flow path, but if you take the 101.5 and the 103.25, you get 204.75, divide that by 2, gives you the 22.375, which is in my email. And for the peak is 142.4, so that gives you 40.025 feet. So either elevation you use, which I think B and C, it exceeds 40 feet. And I have no jurisdiction to allow a building to go over 40 feet in non-shoreland zoning. This has been discussed from day one when the permit was issued because the building was going to be high. And anytime a building is close to the height elevation, I require a surveyor to determine the height of the building.
I get that one.
Yeah, but so, I gotta say, this is so outside my realm
Yeah.
experience that I have to, frankly, I'm lost. So
So it's,
just a warning for those other possible motions, so.
so it's, we're talking about depending upon where you're calculating it, that the surveyor is calculating it from the downhill side and their points relative to Kim's determination of the down side and her points. We're talking of exceeding the 40-foot height difference by a third of an inch to 4.8 inches. This isn't 5 feet.
Right, and which is why I think the precedent issue is that can easily be overdrawn because the facts are such that it's such a minimal number of inches, so it's such a minimal exceeding of 40 feet. And I don't think, in the future, you can say, sure, we've done this before, and is yours 4.8 inches? No, it's 8 feet. Well,
It's always case by case, right?
yes.
I mean, it's,
Not like you can have 100 of these come through the door.
Right.
I hope not.
No, and I think the circumstances of.
I mean, it's rare.
Are such that it's isolation, it's the trees around it.
And you got the support of the neighbors too, so that also
yeah, that's
helps.
the one. This is a opposition here.
So I think
Steer things different.
it's a pretty. Difference between that, between final height and 40 feet.
And not a lot of fill was brought in. Because he was able to, at first, he wasn't gonna do a full foundation.
Right.
But then he had room to have a foundation, so hence he did that, but the contractor did not bring in a lot of fill. To him, to circumvent, like it says in the ordinance, the height, that's not what happened here anyways.
You can't do that anymore.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that would be something you would have to consider, and that's not what happened.
From the standpoint of determining which side is downhill, I think it makes a huge amount of sense to use the path. Just the hydraulic standpoint. But it does sound like either way. North or west. It's gonna be a little bit older.
It's either 1015 and 1025 and 101.5 and. I look at this and I'd look at the where we've got it. About as straightforward as a footprint as you could get it with the rectangle here in the. It's on the rectangle and I see 1015 and I see 1025. For the opinion based on those being the two lowest points on the footprint, that that's the downhill side of the structure. The height is being determined.
Which is going to give us a final number over 40 feet or what?
The higher.
The higher 40.4. Oh, no, 40.4.
So what do you feel about that? It's this one. If we had a motion on this, I think it should reference the rating elevations that the board's height determinations can. Can have. Has 2 points, that's the right. 8 and. Okay.
I move. You ready, Mike?
Let's go slow.
Yeah, I'll have to. I move that the application indicates, and the board so finds, that the original grade is measured,
Can I just ask one question for the applicant? Sure. There's no way you can shave 4 inches off the.
of the parallel.
Thank you for that question. The main structural network for the roof is daylights essentially on top of the roof. So even shaving 3/8 of an inch off that engineered timber could potentially compromise the structure. So
Your ridge is right to the bottom.
yeah. So I mean, at the risk of relaying this with full transparency, and we discussed this in the site visit, and it's in the application. But as the roof is detailed, it would need as much as 4 more inches to do the ridge, the cap and the shingles. That's a conservative estimate. This is the measurements that we're discussing here, or the framing, which was extended at the time of the surveyor.
You guys understand that. He puts shingles for the.
Right.
It's so concerned with other, inches. It's probably gonna be 40 feet, 6 inches when you're done.
I think that's still minimal amount, folks. And all the neighbors are okay with it. The homes are visible in there. It's a really wooded area.
Yeah, I think the standard is not necessarily what the neighbors think, but the standard says. Exceptional cases which meet the standards of this ordinance and will not adversely affect the skyline of the town. And I think we can find clearly it doesn't adversely.
So if that's in the issue.
Board finds And that the application indicates that the original, hold on,
The application indicates that the
original grade.
regional grade,
Original grade.
Original grade.
Mean original,
Yeah, somebody needs to tell me this, because this is way outside of my understanding.
mean original down.
Mean original grade at the downhill side of the building.
There's go.
And then what do you, I seriously don't know, so,
It's being determined by.
so somebody else could try this.
Determined by the elevations of B and C on the south side of the building.
Yeah,
determined by,
it's B and C. Submitted.
Submitted.
Survey plan.
Survey.
And you want those numbers?
Well, he's now only saying 4.6. Because that this peaks 142.4.
So you want me to say, and therefore, the final height of the building will be 6 inches higher than the allowable 4 feet?
Exceed the 40-foot limit.
Is that accurate?
That's,
I mean,
our builder is saying it's 4 inch, potentially 4 inches higher than. So
So 40.4 was accurate?
40.48 is the framing. So the 4.8 inches is the framing we need. As the allocation, so there's possibly another 4 inches to detail.
So 40 feet, 8 inches? is-
Yeah, 40 feet, 8 inches.
40 feet, 8 inches.
You say.
So that'll have to be verified by Steve.
Yeah.
Because they're okay, they're gonna authorize this, can't exceed that.
You want us to say less than 41 feet?
Okay, whatever you feel comfortable saying,
That would,
that be,
that would be.
At that angle, the wood, really goes quickly.
Save us,
41 foot,
both of us and Gina and Kim, I think
Yeah.
we should. pick 40.
okay,
So the final height of the building will be less than 41 feet
as determined by the surveyor.
as determined by the surveyor. And this height will not adversely affect the skyline of the town because it will not be visible from any public way.
all right, hold on.
The server is gonna go out there when this thing is all said and done.
When they've got it, yeah, shingles or whatever.
And it will not be
South
from any water body. Then it won't be visible from the sound. And that's the only other way to go. So it won't be visible from any water body. Not visible, it's not visible. Any public way, all the water body. Abutting property owners do not object to this final height. And therefore, the board finds that the application to exceed the height can be approved. Sure, that makes sense, but.
Very dark.
I can be. You deal with some Cambridge?
The language of the ordinance says it's an exceptional circumstance that does not affect the visual quality of the neighborhood as a finding.
At the risk of leading a witness that I drafted a potential motion.
Okay. Well, I already indicated it will not adversely affect the skyline.
You gotta go through 6, 8, B, and C.
Conditional use. So there we go, why, so we don't,
Yeah, so why are we making a motion?
I don't know.
Just,
you
We have to go
You
through
have to say
six.
it's because it says it needs conditional use approval, and that's your application.
Okay,
So we do have checklists.
Yeah, yeah. It's the conditional use application.
Okay, well then let's,
you want the description?
let's stop the motion.
Yes, withdraw that motion.
I'm gonna make a motion to not have on review.
Just hold it.
Put it on.
Yes.
Yeah, no, trash. Okay. Okay, well, it's an odd one because we know.
This is the first for us. So, okay, so we're gonna circle back and first, I guess we need,
I move we use the short form.
Second,
let's find the application complete first.
Sorry, I so moved.
second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Short form?
Short form.
So moved.
second,
All those in favor for the short form
Aye.
and approval?
I move approval.
second.
We press the pause button and let's review this, so. It's ready. Compatibility, 6A1 under general performance standards. Back in the woods, it's got a small footprint, it's not taller than the trees, it's. Cannot be seen from the public way, so it's the application. 6A2 erosion and sedimentation control. Not an excessive amount of fill brought in. They're managing erosion and sedimentation control for best management practices. Is that correct? Yeah.
We submitted in support of the application a letter from Andrew McCollum.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Dated October 23rd, 2023. Titled erosion and sedimentation. Oh,
The application, 6A3 highway safety, NA, impact on town services. NA. And suitability to the submitted survey and topographic information. They're not in the shoreline zone. See application. Lighting outdoor.
And they're not looking at that.
Looking at lighting. Stormwater. Since A7,
Submitted an initial permit.
the application. 6A8 vegetation. See application. 6A9 dust fumes, vapors, odors, and gases. Findings of fact are presented by the applicant in the attached application, including laws that proposed use is in compliance with all standards of section 6A. Which that standard has been met.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Then going on to section 6B, specific performance standards for activities and land uses. I mean, and it's not agriculture and a excavation or building.
And
And a, you didn't bring it. No fences and walls in a, not building up another quarry and hall quarry. In a signs, there are no signs, it's not a cell tower. In a. But we don't have any chickens yet. Food truck, and it's not a rooming house. And not a hotel or motel, and so the proposed use will include none of the specific activities or land uses described in section 6B, and the conclusion was that section 6B is not applicable.
second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
So do we review section six
You
C?
do, because the lot is wholly or partially within the shoreline. But this development's not in the shorelines.
So section six C shoreline zoning standards reviewed by the planning board, even though the structure is not in the shoreline.
It says the lot is wholly or partially. It's all NA anyways.
Yeah, so agriculture and animal husbandry and a six C two archaeological sites. And a essential services and a parking areas and a marine and freshwater structure standards. Building a pier, 69 roads and driveways. NA and water quality,
All NA.
all NA. So the findings of fact that proposed use of fleet run of specific activities, land use is described in section six C. And that the conclusion law of section six C is not applicable. That's it.
Second.
Those in favor?
Right.
And because it is partially in the lot is partially in the shoreline zone. 591 will maintain safe and healthful conditions.
Also all NA because it's height you're looking at.
There's go. 591 through 599 is all NA. Because we are only reviewing height. So the findings of fact are C above and conclusion laws that all requirements for section 5.9 have been met.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Permit conditions to this?
Height needs to be verified by the 2 points at the south end of the building.
So the final. The completed construction height shall be certified by a Maine registered
Yep.
surveyor. From points B and C on the submitted. Survey point.
You're allowing the building not to exceed 41 foot in height.
Those are the permit conditions, 2 of them. So you got the 2 permit conditions.
Yes, final height must be verified, at points B and C,
The survey plan.
so, okay, it wasn't survey plan, yes, I have that, and the building can't exceed 41 feet.
Survey and certified by a surveyor.
That's part of the plan.
Do we need to add more?
Everybody knows it's
And it needs to be submitted to the code enforcement department prior to an occupancy permit.
And we all believe that's gonna work. 41 feet. We all believe that's gonna work, 41 feet. No more than 41 feet, that's gonna work, that's gonna do the job.
Yeah. He said 48 feet.
Yes.
All
All right.
Just.
All right, so then back to the approval, it's passed by. All those in favor of approving the application with those 2 permit conditions?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Don't have to shave it.
You may.
Thank you for
Just stay under 41.
persevering through our process.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
See. Architecturals for drawing.
Yes, it's beautiful.
All right. What else do we have?
So that's it.
Run other,
We have any other? No,
there's no update.
nobody
That
wants to say.
leaves us with
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
a discussion. All those in favor?
Hi.
Not the day.
Yes.